I was able to witness my sister give birth to my niece when I was 12, and it was a beautiful experience, like most people would say when witnessing birth. But there were certain experiences in her labor and in her postpartum period that were full of suffering. Something inside of me knew that there was a more caring option, a more wholly supportive option. And so that led me into looking at different options to support women's health outside of obstetrics or gynecology. Okay, so I'm going to take some of these avocado leaves, and ideally I want to get some of the fresh ones that are soft and pliable and bright green. And if I can't reach any of those, which is likely because I'm quite short, then I'll go for some of the older leaves, which have a tendency to be a bit darker, a bit more glossy and thick. Both work. You just need different quantities. Rule of thumb is generally when you're making teas or concoctions or herbal medicine, it's a handful of fresh herbs, 2 to 3 handfuls of dry. And so that's kind of the balance there. You need less fresh generally. Okay, going to see. My name is Savannah Tucker. I'm a doula. I'm 24 years old, and I'm originally from Lompoc, California.
Let's see. You got this.
Okay, so if you look at these are reasonably new and fresh, and they're bendable and bright green. Looks like we got one funky leaf, but a majority of these are pretty fresh. So this is a good grab. A doula is a birth support person, and a doula has many different tools or trainings to support birth, but what we do is non-clinical. And it's very important to notice that difference. A clinical provider has to spend their time focusing on the medical clinical needs of you and your baby. While they're doing that, they don't have the capacity to deal with your emotional needs, to focus on what you're feeling or how you want to adjust or change what's happening. A doula is there just for you. We do partner support as well, but ideally we're there just for the birthing person, to pay attention when no one else is, to make sure that that person has water, food, that they're repositioned. We have a lot of intuitive training, knowing the signs and stages of natural birth and labor. We can help you be prepared for the stages of labor because we're familiar with them. So a lot of our work is informational. It is preparing someone for something that's wholly unfamiliar. A midwife and an obstetrician will give you childbirth resources and education, but a doula makes them particular to your needs. So these are going to make our tea. And the nice thing about avocado is that it's naturally an emollient, so it holds a lot of hydration. And these leaves, when you use them as tea or as a baño, a bath, you can help reinvigorate some of the hydration and moisture in your own tissues. So first I'm going to wash these. These have all kinds of lovely dirt and goodness from whatever's been outside. Lots of ash, actually, if you look at that. So right now I have this beautiful pot of boiling water, and I'm going to make a decoction of these avocado leaves. I start by picking each one off, and the way that I make tea and medicine is I put good intention or thoughts or prayers, however you call them, into each action. So think about your intention, what you're asking for in your practice or in your body or in your time. I like to thank the avocado also. It took a long time for all of these leaves to grow. A lot of water and a lot of sunshine. So I'm going to go ahead and add this first handful. You don't have to crush it or do anything fancy. then it does a nice job of lubricating the inside of our bodies. And if we're people that menstruate or people with a womb, we can use these for sitz baths and steams, and these bring moisture to our vaginal tissues. They help with menstruation as well. Does a lot to ease discomfort. So now that these hojas are in, I'm going to make sure they're all covered, and I'm going to go ahead and cover it and let it boil for the next 15 or so minutes. It has this deep, rich color. So if you look, it looks a bit orangey red, and that's exactly where we want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and ladle some of this out so you can see the color. It's a nice orangey color. A day in my doula work is very different day to day, but a day that I had recently that was really enjoyable started out with me getting an unexpected reach from a client asking me if I could attend a doctor's appointment with them. My client has 2 young children, and so my job was to care for a toddler while they attended a new parent doctor's visit. So playing with a toddler, blowing bubbles, running around picking flowers, doesn't get much better. And then after that, I was contacted by another doula who asked if I had some time to volunteer. I do. So we looked into some resources for a very deserving client who doesn't have access to other birth resources. A lot of my time right now is also preparation for my abdominal massage and my belly binding that I offer. But I also make oils with some of my herbs. These are traditional medicine from Mexico, and they provide warming to the body. Warmth is very important in postpartum. It helps with circulation and healing. So a traditional practice that I spend a lot of my time in is creating herbs and oils to generate warmth in the body and to keep warmth in the body. And then I support that with binding and wrapping to keep warm. So today I brought a cazuela, which is the large ceramic container. And today that'll be housing water for a foot soak. And then I also have ingredients, a warming oil, the epazote oil, which we'll be using for our abdominal massage. I also have hojas de aguacate and epazote, and both of those will be going into her foot soak. My current plans during COVID are to expand my postpartum services. Because birth is just not accessible unless it's a home birth, I have rearranged my priorities to include more nutritive care, so soups and broths, food deliveries at home, more informed conversations about lactation support through nutrition, making sure that people understand the different herbs or teas that they can use for their bodily discomforts or bodily transitions. Even going as far as taking some of the offerings that doulas normally have, sitz baths or perineal steams, and making those teachable either virtually or in home so that people have access to that care. Now, the only caveat for that is that it takes away the relaxation to some extent. I would say one thing I do very firmly value in my practice is that I offer relaxation to new families and new mothers. When I come into a home, I allow them space for their nervous system to calm itself, for them to no longer feel obligation for anything around them, to just be in their body. And that's something that I think you don't really get from self-practice. So that's something I want to figure out how to mediate, but for now it's finding that balance.